Today's episode is brought to you by the Hammer of Justice.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I'm your host, The Blevins, and with me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. How are you? You introduced me incorrectly though. It's Stage 3 Power Rankings Contest Champion Deathblow.
True.
Make sure you get that in. Gotta remember.
Rigged, by the way. No, who
Nothing to do
better?
with that one.
who better to host a show about competitive Overwatch than the person who literally knows the most about the power rankings going into the stage? Just saying.
I mean, you're already tuned in, so I don't know what we're pandering to you for. But either way, thanks for being here, everybody.
Yeah, that's a good one. We'll probably be talking more about that as well as with the Hammer of Justice, I'm sure, as us Toronto fans are scrounging for something positive to talk about.
We gotta win, baby.
We got a W. 1-7 is what I will always consider Stage 3 as. But we'll talk about that in just a bit. A little bit of housekeeping before we go on. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. All the shows are now on Spotify. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in on Spotify and on Apple. We got a I don't know if this is a weird marketing email and they're trying to sell us their service or something, but we got an email from some sort of podcast aggregator, and we are on some list for. I swear it's not a Nigerian prince trying to send over his fortune. But we're on a top list for gaming podcasts, so we're not at the top of the list. We're just on the list. But nonetheless, thanks everyone for listening and for tuning in. So if you haven't already, make sure you follow and subscribe on all of those channels. And even if you don't listen on Spotify, just hit up that Spotify, hit up that iTunes, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. That's I'm pretty sure it looks at reviews and like other like following and all that stuff. So definitely all that helps. And we are on Spotify now. But the triumphant return of Round the Payload will be next week. I've already got a nice little cast and crew, at least the lion's share of a cast picked out and confirmed already. And we may or may not be having Deathblow back on Around the Payload for the first time in what seems like forever.
Can't guarantee that, but we can tell you that the Stage 3 Power Ranking Champion will be there, whoever that might be.
That's true. Yeah, whoever won the Stage 3 High Noon Podcast Power Ranking Contest, they are going to be on. I don't know who that is yet. I haven't checked.
That was the secret prize. We didn't announce it, you know.
Yes. Foul Play, of course, is going to be back. So last week we had some technical difficulties, and I'm going to take the blame here. I did not set everyone up well enough to be able to stream and to record, and there were some technical issues. My apologies there. We're going to make sure everything goes smoothly tomorrow. Not sure if we're going to be able to stream it on the Twitch channel tomorrow because for some reason Hebe's not. There's technical issues that I can't control for that, but the suffice it to say the episode was not properly recorded, and I take blame for that one and any technical issues there that I could have helped with. I did not. So sorry, Foul Players, but there will be the in between stages episode, which is going to be Hebe, Tepoyama, and A Smith are going to be doing some sort of wacky draft. So that's going to be fun. Those ones are always fun. It's going to be both Tepo and Hebe's first draft, so that's going to be a nice one to listen to.
I thought we were kicking them out for those episodes because those are too much fun.
I mean, if you want to do it, you can. At the end of the day, I control the feed, so
they had a good run. They had a good run.
But definitely tune into that. And they actually are. If you're listening to this live, or if you catch this early, If you catch this episode early in the day, they are taking suggestions as to what they should draft. So hit them up on Twitter at HNP_FOWL play. And yes, make sure you do that. And of course, as always, the Black Watch Report had a new episode last week, and we'll be having a new episode tomorrow in podcast world. So make sure you check them out at Black Watch Report on Twitter, and they also have their own feed and their own Twitch channel. Make sure you check them out. But before we get into the real news, let's talk about what we did this week. DB, anything fun and exciting for you?
No, it was my staycation, my relaxing weekend with a lot of sleep and single player games, since I mostly play games with other podcasters and things like that who were all in Atlanta for the weekend, and then you were up in Canada, spoiling your section of the what did we do this week? But yeah, so I just played a bunch of Dauntless, some Sea of Thieves, things like that. But no, just had a relaxing weekend and enjoyed watching Toronto get knocked around.
Except for the Torbjorn 1v1, where
we were victorious.
Mangachu, it couldn't have been more poetic. The very first pro player that High Noon Podcast has ever had on beats literal Voldemort. Yeah, could not have been better. But yeah, I was up in Canada, and it's really a stretch saying that I was up in Canada, because the place I was at is basically just across the border. Like, literally, it's on the Erie, Lake Erie, like the Canada side. So it's as close to America as you physically could be on the water.
Still counts.
What's that?
Still counts.
Still counts, yeah. Had to cross the border and all that stuff. But it was... I don't know if anyone else lives near a border. Maybe they have had the same sort of thing happen, where like it's physically, like, it's closer. The place we went to is closer to my apartment than my parents' house is, but it felt very far away because it was in a different country.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of crazy, but that was nice.
You had to use Monopoly money, all sorts of
no,
things.
I just use a credit card for anything. I don't do Monopoly money. But I did get to go to, I did find out that Tim Hortons in Canada, their iced coffee is served already with cream and sugar in it, unless you specifically ask for it black, which is weird. But that's neither.
That's the kind of hard-hitting analysis you get here on the.
Yeah, if you guys are going to a Tim Hortons in Canada and you're from America and you want a black iced coffee, make sure you ask for it, because you'll get cream and sugar in your iced coffee if you don't. But, okay, enough of that riveting news. So let's move on and talk about some real stuff. Oh, come on, I pressed the button.
It's news.
God, I had that ready, too. I blame the internet. Kuki has retired from the LA Valiant. I mean, this just seems like another in the long list of players who were kind of phased out in season 2, who, maybe, I don't know. It really kind of seems like we're getting a lot of those players that were like, maybe they're part of an existing like good team pre-Overwatch League that kind of got inherited into the Overwatch League. It didn't really make it up to it. Didn't quite like the pro Overwatch League player life, but I don't know. Any analysis on this, Kuki?
I think it's clear what happened here. It's the meta caught up to Custa's intelligence, and now he's able to play at all times. And so you don't need your backup main tank anymore, because you don't need him to play main support. No, Kuki never really fit on this roster to me. Yeah. Yeah, and it was even signified. I'm surprised it didn't happen a little earlier. Maybe they were hoping to trade him or something like that. You don't just cut assets if you don't have to, I suppose. But he just never really seemed to fit. It was weird that they had him playing main support, obviously. And then when they got rid of Fate, it wasn't, okay, next man up. It was, no, bring in Fact Fiction. Like, we need to import somebody. So I think once that happened, Kuki probably wanted out. Stuck around for a little bit to see if a trade was going to happen within the window, and it didn't. So he has stepped away. I wish they use this term "retired" so much. Every time somebody leaves
Yeah.
a team,
Mhm.
they retired. And I don't know that I buy retirement here. I think he's likely to pop up on a contenders team
Right.
and then maybe make another run to try to get back into the league. But we will have to wait and see. I know there's a lot of teams out there that could use a good main tank. We didn't get to see much of Kooky, but we did get to see enough to know that he had some games. So I'd like to see maybe what he can do, with a team, maybe on a two-way contract, spend a little time in contenders with an academy team, and then get brought up if the team still needs him. Something along those lines, I think, would be appropriate here for Kooky. He never really, despite being in the league for both seasons so far, never really got the opportunity to really show what he can do. So hopefully he's able to do that and maybe get another chance.
Yeah, I really do want, like, I don't know if it's on the media, if it's on the teams, if it's on the players individually, but let's clear up the nomenclature for retires or leaves, trades. Like, trade, okay, that makes sense, but I guess a lot of times these teams do these like trades, but they don't sync up in terms of time, so it's usually not like a one for one like direct deal. It's like, oh, these players have left and then they get signed by another team like instantly. It's like, well, probably knew that was going to happen, right? Like, it's not like they, these deals don't get announced until they're later on. But I don't know. We need more leaks. We need more leak boys to to spoil these earlier so that we can actually get an idea. But
yeah, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times that retirement could be exactly what's happening. We saw Mistakes retire, although I'm literally on my other monitor can see him playing in contenders right now.
right.
And it's he's still retired, right? It was still adequate to say that when he did it, but in this case, like, I don't even see a statement from Kooky, so it's like today the Valiant are announcing the retirement of him, and are they retiring him from their roster, or is he retiring? Like you said, we've just got to clear up the nomenclature a bit, and it's all part of my regular transparency rant. But this isn't the straw that broke the camel's back, guys. Don't worry.
No,
it will be another 4 or 5 episodes before I go on another tirade about it.
I mean, this isn't even like it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. It's just like, well, maybe if we just agreed to use the same words for same thing. Yeah, released. Like, okay, he was released. That means he can do whatever he wants. Retires is like Fisher's case, which we talked about last week, makes more sense to be referred to as having retired because he made the active choice to step down. He said he's not going to really be playing Overwatch, at least in the immediate future. It's like there's a chance he's not going to play it anymore, but I don't remember what was said about Logix when he left the Mayhem. I don't know if it said he was released or if it just said farewell or ambiguous. I mean, from the team's perspective, they don't care, right? They don't care about us. They don't, and the league doesn't care either. So I guess we'll
retirement is to me a player decision, and usually means they're stepping away from the game. In this case, maybe not the game, since people do play video games for fun sometimes, and these guys stream. But at least leaving competitive, not searching for an Overwatch League team to sign with, not searching for a contenders team,
right?
Anything like that. Retirement means I'm no longer playing competitively. And that's a player decision. Release is the Valiant saying, we don't want Kooky using up a roster spot anymore. We would like to, to release him so that he can pursue other opportunities. And yes, that has a negative connotation to it, but if it's accurate, it's accurate. So let's use the right word.
Yeah. Retirement does not mean that they post LFT immediately afterwards, or they retweet the official tweet and subtweet it saying LFT. That's really all we need. But it's pretty much the only real news we had for this week, besides, of course, the fact that, do we want to spoil it, even though we've already spoiled it 5 times, Deathflow? You were the Stage 3 power
that's pretty
champion.
Big news. It's pretty big news in my world, so we can say it if we want to.
Yeah, you are the Stage 3 champion for the Power Rankings contest.
Undisputed Stage 3 champion.
Undisputed I don't really have a good drop for you, so we'll just give you the Outlaws.
The outlaws are coming.
You don't have the trumpets. We need to get you the trumpet sound effect.
What's that?
We need to get you the trumpet sound effect.
Oh yeah, I do. I do need the trumpet sound effect. That I can. There's definitely some I could get rid of.
Well, for stage 4, when I win the power rankings contest for that, we'll go with trumpets.
The Outlaws one works just fine. But yes, you like your famed Outlaws really really shot up in stage 3. So I mean, and it's in no small part because of your Outlaws that you won the contest.
I just want to go on record. I've been like top 5 every stage, but at this time was numero uno. So.
Yeah, and I think I think your faith in the Outlaws and the Outlaws actually, stepping up really pushed you over the top.
It certainly helped.
Yes, but let's move on here, and it's tournament talk. Talk a little bit about the matches that happened this week. Of course, this was the short week. We had the Atlanta Reign Homestand. We're going to have to get some specific intel from our good friends who attended. You always get that FOMO when you see the Twitter pictures. Especially, I'm calling out Blazing Bob here because he makes a point. He takes a picture with everybody, and it's like, I know those guys. I know those guys. Oh man, I wish I was there. It's like every time I'm like, I completely had it on my there was a point in time where I was planning on going, then I looked into the tickets, and it's like, okay, the tickets themselves were like maybe $100 or something, and it's like, okay, that's not too bad. Maybe I could probably talk to someone, maybe get a media pass, but that's fine. But then it's like, man, the flight there and back is like $400, and it's just like, no, I'm not doing it.
I have no regrets about not going because I know roughly the temperature that it was there. And
True.
Human beings do not belong in those temperatures, let alone human beings my size. I have no regrets about not going there. But I also want to give a shout out to Blazing Bob for leveling up our meme because I don't know if you even saw it, Blevins.
Oh, no,
I assume you had. He went one up. He found a way to escalate the typical traveling to an event, but everyone doesn't.
I did not see this escalation. What is the escalation?
Yeah, so he found somebody that looks like me at the event, took a picture with them, and said, "Hanging with at HNP."
Oh, that's amazing.
And the guy's not like a spitting image, but I mean, he's got a roughly the right beard length. He's a bigger guy. Like it's way close enough that he gets full credit for finding a doppelganger, I think, considering what he had to work with and just the people at the venue and stuff.
I gotta see this.
Shout outs to Bob while we have just the greatest moment in radio while Blevins pulls out his phone to look at a Twitter picture. But yeah, it was honestly great. It looked like a whole lot of fun. Half of I Play Games' face was in the picture. He looked like he was very excited to be leveling up the meme as well. So yeah, it looked like an absolute blast of a time. I'll just start going through the matches that happened because not one of them were close. The New York Excelsior 3-0 over the Florida Mayhem. Not good enough to 4-0 the Florida Mayhem as Blevins sees the photo. Yeah,
that's pretty close.
It's way too close for just like I said, full credit for the doppelganger.
Yeah, no, that's a 10 out of 10. Bob, I bow down to you for that. That's a 10 out of 10.
That was good. Right and if you can't go to finals, you better believe we're going to find a middle-aged balding.
Oh, I will find a Blazing Bob. Don't you worry.
Moving on, though, we had the Philadelphia Fusion 3-1 over the Washington Justice. The Atlanta Reign get the home win 3-1 over the Toronto Defiant, and we had the Guangzhou Charge win 3-1 over the Shanghai Dragons. The upset special of the week. It just wouldn't be stage 3 if we didn't have an upset involved. So
and it just wouldn't have been this weekend if it didn't even matter a little bit in the end.
Right. But it did honestly keep Sunday's games much more compelling.
True.
Then Philly versus Shanghai. Shanghai won 3-1. Was decisive for basically who made the playoffs. Winner was in. So that was a lot of fun.
Winning matches are good.
And then Guangzhou continued their strong end to stage 3 with a 4-0 win over the hapless Washington Justice. Then Atlanta got the 4-0 win over the Florida Mayhem, and New York got the 4-0 over the Toronto Defiant, who also completed, both teams in that game completed a flawless stage. One of them with no losses and the other with no wins.
Oof. I think your definition of flawless might be a little big for what it is.
Perfect. So, I don't know. I'm trying to figure. I'll try to figure out the unblemished record. I guess.
Okay, I'll take that.
But Mangachu did screw that up and got in the most important match, got the 7-6 victory over DeFran in the Torbjorn 1v1. So Atlanta did lose once this weekend, and Toronto Defiant did win once this weekend. It just didn't actually count for anything.
Honestly, if I had to choose where they got the victory, I would choose the regular season, obviously, because that actually matters. But no,
I would have chosen to 4-0 New York, just for how awkward this whole thing would have been, with me on cloud 9 about it, and then you like, I'm super pumped, and then like dead inside at the same time. It would have been. That is true. That is true, because it also would have like screwed up where they are in the play. It just would have thrown off so many things. So I won't say that I'm happy that NYXL 4-0'd. But I'm also never not happy when they get a 4-0. So I'll just leave it at that. It's a tough week to watch.
Man, liking two teams is not a good. It's hard.
No, I low-key hate it, but I don't really have much choice because there's a local team and I already picked one. Like I don't have a choice anymore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in terms of storylines, it's like there's really not a ton. Like it's really just kind of the bow to the end of the stage. We did have the Shanghai Dragons winning their winning in. Of course, they didn't need to do that because they could have just, won against Guangzhou, which didn't happen. But everything else went pretty much as expected. Florida Mayhem, man, I mean, they played against NY, so not really expecting map wins there. And then I guess against the home team, Florida, I'm beginning to think they might be cursed.
I don't think they're cursed, but here's what I want to know, and I want your take on. They rolled out the same 6 players again. Like, you have 12 players on your roster. The only thing they did was, like, substitution-wise, was put Byram in for a while so that he could just get picked super early in team fights and just be kind of a mess. I'm out on the Byram experimentation plan already. I'm over it. They look way better to me when Hagopun is playing, and I thought his resurgence once Fate got there was a big part of the reason why they were able to take down Houston and why things looked like they might be turning around a little bit. So as somebody that, against all logic and all personal benefit here, continues to root for Florida in some capacity, what do you want them to do with these players they signed? Because I can't even say it's wrong to keep playing these guys because they got that win over Houston. It would be really kind of crummy to reward them with losing their jobs instantly after getting us, a surprise win against a hot team. But what would you do with the roster going into stage 4?
Oh, man. I mean, I've always been, and again, this is, of course, without seeing scrims or knowing any of that other stuff, but I've always been of the opinion, regardless of the team, like, when you're losing, you got to change something. Because it's like they show, like, little flashes of improvement. Like, they spiked the win against Houston. But besides that, like, it's not like they've been steadily, like, improving bit by bit. It seems like they are getting stomped every week, except for the 1 week where they randomly won. So it's tough to be like, well, they need to stay on a plan. I mean, it's always gonna be based on their results, right? Because if they win, it's like, oh well, it's great. They got the 6. That's gonna be great. And if they lose, it's like, oh, they need to change something. But also, it's like, well, they change, look at Seoul. Oh, they change their roster every week and they don't win, so they need to just stick with the roster. It's like, you can't win, right? Well, that's their problem, is that they can't win. But man, I don't know. I think I gotta trust that they can see, that the coaching staff sees like what they're doing in scrims and is playing the team that they see is doing the best in scrims. And the problem is that that's not good enough right now. So
Yeah.
they need to change something. I don't know how much, and I don't know what sample size you need for, because like, you think about it, like when did they haven't even, man, I don't know. Play the new players, give them a shot, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel similarly. I mean,
I keep flipping
if
back and forth in my mind as I'm thinking this straight.
I do the same thing, and I almost think I'd end up with like a mix of new and old here. I would give Carry On a chance, if for no other reason than we have that sweet drop and we need opportunities to use it. So you got to give the Wayward Son an opportunity. But I have a hard time imagining he's going to be better than Fate. I mean, I'm open to it. Fate's not a world beater by any means, but he's
Not
really
anymore.
consistent, really, just a really strong player. And I tend to think he's going to get the job. I think Saya Player is Linkser on a different team. He's not somebody you can ever take out of the lineup. He's just got to be there. BQB's been really strong, but as far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen enough of his hero pool at a high level to think he can do all of them. So maybe you try a little DPI, and if he doesn't pop and look like head and shoulders the best player, you do a little swapping there. I'm over the Zephyr experiment. I think it's got to be Gargoyle going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Use him all of stage 4. Find out what you have in him. You have more than enough tape on Zephyr to know what you have there, and I would think to know that you don't need it or don't really necessarily want to go forward with it.
Right.
And then the support line isn't a contest to me. Like Hago has looked better than Byram in every opportunity he's been given the chance. There's a little bit of inconsistency there, but when your tank line folds, it's really hard to stand out on the support line because they're just out of line of sight dying. Who is there for you to heal? So I think they need to do a little more experimenting, and I think things will get a little easier for them in the 2-2-2 lock, assuming that does become official and we do confirm get that, because then you won't need to Zephyr's been playing DPS heroes for them in their flexible compositions, so maybe that's not something Gargoyle's really able to do at any level, really. And that's not really a knock on him because that's not his job. So maybe that explains that. I don't know. But yeah, they need to 1 or 2 weeks in stage 4 and then stick with a 6. Whoever you think your best 6 are that you have, it has to be lock steady. And you don't want to go through stage 4. Why did you sign these players if you're not going to use them? So I would think you need to get all of them in. You need to get Carry On. You need to get DPI. You need to get Gargoyle and all these guys in Reign, everybody to play at the same time for a week. And then week 2, you need to go and you need to spend the next 4 weeks trialing these guys for next season. It's trial by fire. It's, can you compete on the stage when it counts, when it matters? You're not going to get a better chance and a better look at these guys. So mentally cut the other 6, find out who are the 6 you're keeping, and then go into the state, into the break between seasons 2 and 3, looking to fill the gaps. But right now, just not even trying these guys is a great way to end up in the same situation you started this season in. And that's, well, we have these pieces, so we're going to let a bunch of people go. We're going to assume they work. And then what happens when they don't? You don't have a backup plan. So fast forward the clock a little bit. Play stage 1 of season 3 and stage 4 of season 2 instead this time around, and have that knowledge going into the break so you can make better and more concise and more calculated moves in the off season to address your issues.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they were just like, you know what, the new players are not practiced with the team right now. They're not practicing this meta, and the meta is shifting. So we're not even going to put effort into them, that we're not going to have them practice this meta. They're going to be maybe they're doing separate 2-2-2 stuff. Like maybe they're purposely keeping them completely separate. I could almost see that, and they just roll out with almost a brand new team going into stage 4 if it is actually 2-2-2. So I could see that. That almost seems like the most logical thing, even though it's kind of wacky. But I mean, here's the thing: you're not going to get any worse, right? Like, you're not doing worse than you already have. So I could see them doing that. But I'm sure we'll always have more to talk about when it comes to the Florida Mayhem. But speaking of teams that did worse this stage than the Florida Mayhem, unfortunately, Toronto Defiant did sign the ill-fated player Owen 7. Man, Death, you gotta train me here, man. How do I keep my hopes up after an 0-7 stage? You obviously did that with your Houston Outlaws, and it ended up paying off. You know, the Houston really has had a spectacular stage. They really have shown improvement, even though the meta changed, but the rule set of the actual heroes and whatnot didn't change. So what kept your hope alive in this going into this stage, and what can keep us Toronto fans hope alive?
Well, it wasn't that high on Houston, to be fair, going into stage 3. I was not anticipating anything like an actual stage playoff run or a 5-2 record. That wasn't a thing to me. But I do feel similarly about Toronto that I did about Houston at the time. And it's just kind of faith in the roster and what's there. And what's different in this case is that the pieces that I have faith in and what I like about the roster are new. So I still am very up in the air about the tank line. I don't. Gods has been fine, but I don't think he's been great by any stretch. Yakpung's looked better since the competition's come in from Sharik off the bench. Sharik didn't look great to me, but it's fine. You're gonna have developmental players here. I don't know we don't know what his contract looks like. It could be two-way. We don't know. We just know he's not currently playing for Montreal, so they've got him around. I think there's a lot going for this team. I think, you've got Mangachu in the specialist DPS spot, which I think he excels at a few heroes in particular, and then is pretty solid on some other ones. You've got Logix, who I think can just kind of be a mainstay on the roster in the hit scan spot. And then maybe you do a little substituting of Mangachu and Ivy. You've got I'm 37 in the wings. He didn't have the best appearance and the best performance in Overwatch League, but the guy had been signed to his first open division team a month before he got signed to the Toronto Defiant or something like that. Right. So I think he's a great developmental prospect to have in the organization to work on to maybe be a future asset for them. And I think the support line looks pretty solid to me. I like the Aid Neko combo. I think it's better than the Roki Neko combo. So I think they got to the right decision there. One thing I think this team desperately needs is a shot caller. Now that might mean a new main support needs to come in and become the shot caller for this team. Somebody that can really gain control of comms and lead the team in the middle of it. And I think there's a big need there. And then also I think for certain the main tank position is upgradable even with Yakpung playing better. I think you can make a signing or an acquisition that would make an improvement to this roster there. And I wouldn't close the door on an off tank either, though I think Gods has to stay, right? Because I think he's kind of that baseline now that Envy's gone. That was kind of a fallback for them, in my opinion. Right. Now that safety net's gone, Gods needs to become that. And I think you look to sign another off-tank player and put some pressure on Gods. You saw it work and level up Yakpung. Maybe it can do the same with Gods on the roster. I don't know. But, and I don't, the big question to me is the shot caller needs to be there. And any position can theoretically do it, but typically you see a main support or a main tank kind of lead that charge there. So to me, the ideal scenario is find yourself a main tank.
I just realized what the ideal scenario is.
Fissure?
It came to me. Nope.
Oh, okay.
Think better than Fissure. Who is a main tank that we know speaks English and could be a shot caller that isn't seeing play right now? That's in the Overwatch.
He's not a shot caller.
He could be though.
But he's not.
Toronto needs to sign Fraggy. I put it out there into the universe right now.
Sorry.
Wait, who are you talking about?
3-letter name, plays on the Canadian World Cup team.
Oh God, no!
Well, that's what I was.
He's an IRL streamer right now. No. I'm thinking of the actual best scenario, not the meme best scenario.
Not the backup main tank for the Gladiators.
For the Gladiators, the Gladiators Academy team. Yeah, no. I want Fraggy on Toronto Defiant. I'm putting it out into the universe right now.
Great.
It would be a great fit.
If he can shot call, it's perfect. But I think it's the upgrade they needed over Sharik. But it's just very clear that Philly's not moving him, right? Because they could have released him. Yeah. They could have traded him if there was a suitor, and I've got to think with the Valiant going and acquiring Fact Fiction, and like I imagine their phone has rang about Fraggy at least once. Hey, can we bring him in? Can we play with him once? Something. I don't know how the whole process works, but
I don't know either. All I'm saying is
nobody does.
I'm just putting it out into the ether right now.
Yeah,
Fraggy should be on Toronto. I'm
in agreement. I'm fully on board with that plan.
Come on, bro.
Hey man, I thought you were saying it. I wanted nothing to do with it.
No. He's an IRL streamer. He's not gonna go back. Why would he take the pay cut and go back to Overwatch League?
But I think Sharik back to Montreal for season 3, and then I think you bring in a Fraggy, you bring in another main tank option, and then you potentially get yourself. You let Roki go, and you potentially get yourself an English-speaking shot calling main support player. If Fraggy can't shot call or doesn't, isn't practiced at it, I don't want somebody learning to do it. I want to hit the ground running. I want to get back to what they were doing in stage 1, and that is playing their game and trying to get people to match it. And it's teams weren't able to do it back then, and I want to get them back to that point. And right now, they just. The talent's there. I mean, you can see it, right? Like the kills are showing up. The DPS line looks good. The support line looks solid. The tanks don't even look bad, but they just aren't winning team fights, and they just aren't winning maps. And I have to think that's shot calling. That's in the moment. We've seen it before, and it's looked like this in the past. So that's kind of my.
So I have another revelation, though. This one's much less likely because the prospect that I want to have come over is currently starting on a different team. Give me Arc on Toronto. Give me Arc and Fraggy on Toronto. I think you got yourself a nice little team right there.
You could, and honestly, Arc was traded to the Washington Justice, which means he kept the contract that he was playing on from New York, and it just transferred over to the Washington Justice. All season 1 contracts expire at the end of season 2. So even though he's currently signing for somebody, I've said it before, I'll say it again, season 2 is going to see a lot of shakeup going into season 3. Players are that you wouldn't imagine would want to leave are going to want out of the teams they're on.
Yeah.
Other teams are going to jump at the chance to get them. That's going to make one of their guys available.
Unrestricted free agency, baby.
It's when the whole league becomes unrestricted free agents, things are going to get nutty. So it could be a whole lot of fun. There's only 4 or 5 teams I would expect to stay pretty much the same going into next season.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what it came to me. Fraggy on Toronto, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But enough speculation. Let's move on. And
let's break it down.
We have got some
playoffs
to talk about, and we're going to be talking about the
playoffs
all the rest of the show pretty much because that's what's coming up. We've got playoffs. We got stage playoffs. Stage 3 to be precise here, and before we go into the actual matches, we'll talk about the actual standings. We have NYXL in the number 1 spot with the 7-0 plus 16 map differential. I don't know why I said that. Then we have Vancouver Titans and Hangzhou Spark at exactly the same record. 6-1 with a plus 14 map differential. Both of them. That's interesting. But Vancouver is technically billed as the 2 seed. Hangzhou billed as the 3 seed. I don't know what the third tiebreaker is. I'm guessing it's heads up matches because that would make sense. In the 4th seed, we've got San Francisco Shock at 5-2, the plus 15. We've got Seoul Dynasty and LA Valiant as well at 5-2 with a plus 12 and plus 11. Respective. Actually, the rest of these teams, sorry. Every other team, San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, Vancouver Titans, or sorry, Seoul Dynasty, LA Valiant, Houston Outlaws, and Shanghai Dragons are all 5-2, but they have different map differentials: +15, +12, +11, +9, and +5, respectively, for those teams. So, whew, we got some good matchups starting off. It's going to be Houston Outlaws versus Vancouver Titans as the first match, and Shanghai Dragons versus NY. Let's pause here and talk about these matches on the first day, the 11th, the Thursday. You got the big boys. Can you do it?
Yeah, honestly, of all the teams that are vying for an upset here in the first week, I have to say I think the Houston Outlaws beating the Vancouver Titans is the least likely.
Really?
I do, yeah. Of them, Vancouver is uniquely suited among the GOATS teams to like not need to really shake things up like crazy and still be in a spot to play whatever roster they want. It's like one roster switch I think they were making, and that was to bring in Stitch. And we've seen them play. They looked very good doing that. The DPS names here, I mean, Hacksaw, Stitch, and Seomin Su are very, very good DPS players in their time. We've only seen them in Overwatch League playing GOATS because that's all they've been able to run, really. But I have no fear, and I do worry, setting Haxel free on DPS heroes is not necessarily something I relish facing, to be perfectly honest with you. But I do think it's good that Houston gets them right away. First match of the break, that's how they beat San Francisco. They just show up, and before you're even in the swing of the weekend, you're down a map. You're trying to figure out what's going on. I think the result of that matchup is really going to come down to one man. His jersey's behind me, Linkser. Did not have the strongest showing on the Widowmaker, and just in general didn't play poorly, but just he wasn't the pop off the carry that was promised. Yeah, he wasn't top tier Linkser that we've seen in the last couple weeks of the stage. And I think if he's able to show up, he is good enough when he's hot to give your team a chance. Almost he could go to the Washington Justice and give them a chance to beat the Vancouver Titans. We saw Dia almost, from Shanghai, almost get them a win against Houston, because when that carry DPS spot, when Carpe, when Linkser, when whoever insert name here pops off, it's enough. It means dead people. One pop off from your Widowmaker players, 3 people dead. So if he comes out hot and he comes out strong, then Vancouver definitely has a match on their hands, and it should be a whole lot of fun. But I don't have fan pick percentages for this. I'll say I would predict Vancouver to win, but I have a feeling we're going to be looking at like 90 to 95% Vancouver and I'm flipping that if that happens, because I don't think any of them are that secure, that locked up. I would say it's like 70-30 in Vancouver's favor, something along those lines. So if the pick rates reflect those kind of numbers, I'll probably stick with Vancouver, but otherwise I would, for the sake of the flip, go with Houston there. But yeah, I think it comes down to, can Linkser pop off and really carry the team fights like I think we can reliably expect somebody on Vancouver to do, whether it's Bumper, whether it's Hacksaw, whether it's John. They seem to always have somebody doing it, and Houston doesn't have as many people really. Like Muma can do it. I think Linkser can do it. But after that, I mean, Dante can severely impact the game and help take it over with his Sombra play, but we've not seen him just team on the back, I'm carrying everybody, getting 5 kills. That's not really his style. So if that's going to happen, that's got to come from Linkser. I think he gives them more than your kind of puncher's chance. I meant what I said last season. This could very easily be like, and we have the brackets now, so we should know. But do they even work out like brackets? I'm not even super sure
it's like it's like the lowest seeds will play, or no, the highest remaining plays lowest remaining, and then
So you only know a couple things, like Vancouver and New York couldn't play against each other until until the finals, sort of a thing. But I mean, this is better than your puncher's chance. Houston could easily be going against like the Valiant or somebody in the finals here. I still very much so believe that's possible, but Yeah, as far as the potential upsets go, I think this is the least likely to occur.
I think it's also. No, I don't know. I don't know if I see Seoul beating San Francisco. I feel like that's less likely. But regardless, I mean, it's certainly heavily favored for Vancouver, but it is this playoff seems like it more so the anything can happen playoffs than any of the other ones we've had
Yes.
in quite some time. Any two of these teams that could technically play against each other in the finals, I wouldn't be all that surprised if they did. I'm like Seoul versus Shanghai, which maybe could theoretically happen, would probably be the least likely, I think. Finals outcome, it's probably not even possible. But I think those two teams are the least likely to both make the finals. But any team versus any team, I wouldn't be that surprised. Houston included. I do think, there's a slightly different connotation for Vancouver than for Houston here for the playoffs. Like, this is old hat for Vancouver at this point. They've made every single playoffs. Houston looks like they pan out to about once a season to make the stage playoffs. So they even if they are, they obviously could still make it in stage 4. Or no, there are no stage 4 playoffs. I don't remember how.
There are no stage 4.
Okay, there's no stage 4 playoffs. So this is their only stage playoff chance. So they have to, this is their time to claim a stage playoff championship. So
yeah, and listen, if the new meta, the roll lock is confirmed, Vancouver might be writing it off. People don't like to give that theory too much credence and all these things, because it really just is. It can be used as like a throwaway, like, oh, whatever, they just don't care. But
right.
That's why I say it before the stage playoffs instead of after, and then after
Right.
I try to analyze what went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But going into it, I mean, listen, Vancouver could say, okay, what's our 2-2-2 roster look like? We're scrimming that. We're not scrimming 3-3 anymore. We don't care. And like you said, Houston could be all in on this right now and say, we want this. This is a big momentum thing for us. They're a bit of a momentum based team.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So they could really be trying to capitalize on this moment. I mean, they've definitely not beaten Vancouver. They've only played them the once, but they've lost to New York some 5 times now, 6 times now, something like that. That eats at them. I know it does. I know they wanted I think the end of season 1, the last game for Houston was against New York, to keep their playoff hopes alive, and they lost it. And going into it, they said, New York's the only team we haven't beat of the entire roster of teams here in Overwatch League. Yep. There's only one we haven't taken down. So I mean, think about what an emotional high that would be to go, we just beat Vancouver. Okay. Now we just beat New York. Okay. Now we're in the finals against Hangzhou or San Francisco or something. Like, no matter what happens in the finals there. Right. Both of them they've already beaten. So they could even suffer a loss in the finals and still just be on cloud 9 about it and just going through the into stage 4 at an emotional high. And that could be their goal. I really don't know. But for the most part, I expect a lot of these teams to focus their scrim time, at least maybe not be 100%.
Right.
Not to if that, assuming that's happening, we can only read the tea leaves, but the tea leaves are
the tea leaves that
Fisher
dumped out all over the
right. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, Vancouver versus Houston, probably the toughest one to upset.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got NYXL versus Shanghai. I mean, I know who I'm picking, and I know what I'm giving them. It's nice. It's a nice sloppy 5-0 for NY. Not close.
Boy, you're gonna be mad. I'm gonna pick Shanghai to win this one. Here's why: because New York is a team that I believe has every time this season not shown up to stage playoffs playing their best, which tells me they do look forward. Either they're looking forward or they just really do choke in the playoffs. I don't know which it is, but it just seems to be consistent that we don't get the same New York in these stage playoffs that we get in the regular season games. So I also think they're a bit easy to read. They're going to go with, Mano and they're going to sit SBB and they're going to play, 3-3, or they're going to go with him and they're going to be able to play the Somber Goats or,
Right.
maybe some 3 DPS. But Shanghai is the one to me that seems the most adaptable and the most practiced, obviously, in what this new meta is. So granted, they've been inconsistent at times. They have their issues, but I'm going to give Shanghai, let's call it a 3-2 win here. New York, even taking it easy, beats people and, keeps things close. I'm going to predict the upset here for Shanghai 3-2 and just say that it's on the back of, the New York playoff problems. We'll just call them that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have to be a problem. If it's looking forward and if they don't choke in the regular season playoffs, they're completely justified. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Shanghai here in a very narrow margin.
All I'm going to say is I have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to choking or playoff problems. I just don't know. I don't even remember there being playoffs before this stage. So.
Grabs.
No idea what you're talking about. Let's move on to Friday, where we have the Seoul Dynasty playing against the San Francisco Shock. San Francisco, I mean, granted, a 5-2 stage is obviously nothing to sneeze at. They've been nothing short of dominant up until this stage, and we're still very good in this stage. But you see the cracks in that armor, and it's hard to think of them as the juggernaut that they were going into the last stage playoffs.
Yeah, they've definitely, 2 losses this stage, right? It's a far cry from not losing a map in stage 2. So clearly a different team kind of readjusting and readapting to what the meta turned into on them in this stage. They've been able to kind of keep things under control and, it hasn't gotten too crazy on them. So you commend them for that. You've seen a lot of, not that they're a patch team, but you've seen a lot of patch teams, and what they do is they completely disappear when it's no longer their patch.
Right.
So it's good we didn't see that, but they definitely had some troubling showings. The 2 and 5 Atlanta Reign took them to five maps this stage. They lost to Houston, and then they 4-0 Seoul, and they go on a little bit of a 4-0 streak. Boston and Florida, whoop-de-doo. Then they lose to Chengdu. And then they crush London. So, who are these guys?
Right.
It's really kind of up to them. I'm going to pick them because they 4-0'd Seoul, but I don't expect this to be a 4-0. I just think there's something about this matchup, and maybe it's just Seoul's lack of ability to kind of reach that top-tier potential because of their roster switches. I don't know, but even with some of the inconsistent performances and outings we've seen from San Francisco, I think you have to like, at least it's impossible for me not to like them to beat Seoul here, because I just have no faith in what the Dynasty are doing. They're just systematically broken to me, even though it's not blowing up in their face completely. I don't like how they're running their team.
Yeah, I think it's the type of thing where I want to toot our own horns, but we've been doing this for quite some time, and we've seen teams come and go, and we see these little things that we talk about months before, and everyone's like, oh no, but they're winning, or they're doing this, they're doing that. It's like, well, okay, so be it. But we've been talking about this for months now, and it's like Seoul just, ever since the game 1 of season 1 of Overwatch League, they've been something different, and it has not been good. They've had spurts of being amazing. They've had spurts of being absolutely undeniable garbage, and I think I agree with you. It's something systematic, and something just seems off about how they run the team and how they roll out the roster. So I think this might be, well, I don't know. It's probably not the least likely upset to happen, but it's hard for me to pick Seoul in this current environment. But
since we're not tooting our own horns, to back up your point about how right we've been, go back to stage 1 and listen. We were harping on Hangzhou. What are you doing? Why are you splitting time between No Smite and Guxue? Make up your mind already. You're not going to get good until you do.
Right.
Then they picked one, and now all of a sudden they're one of the hot teams in the league at the moment. They're 6-1 on the stage and in 3rd place, and easily the most top heavy of playoff records and standings we've seen to date. It's what you need to do, and especially with some of the positions that they mess around with. We've always been a proponent. You can make some substitutions at DPS. The role of that, kind of the job of the players in that role is a little bit to just pop off and click heads. So if you want to run one specific hero, it makes sense to put one in that mechanically better at that hero. But your main tanks, your support lines, these things, they need to work together, and they need to work together well, very cohesively. And it has to catch up to Seoul at some point, even if it's not, they're going to be a playoff team. I think the writing's on the wall there. But I don't have any faith in them to win a playoff match when we get there, right? Like it's going to be very tough for them to do that. Even if they were to start now, they'd be 2.5 stages behind everybody else that solidified their roster forever ago. So.
Right. Yeah, it seems like that's just how they run the org, and that I think the good news is that I don't think that strategy leads to consistency. But winning a stage playoffs is not necessarily about consistency. It's about spiking the right matches at the right time. So maybe they can do it. But I'm certainly
credit where it's due. If they can keep their roster as it is and not have a bunch of turnover and keep these guys for multiple years and rotate them and get this kind of success, they'll get that across like a full 12-man roster. Like it's possible to build that over but in this time span of one season.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So right now, at least, like if it's going to work, it would have to be the super long con, but they've shown a willingness to release players and let them go last season. So like anything they gained from doing that last year is out the window, right? They lost Fissure and who knows who they're going to lose going into the next season. And are their players really happy? 50% playtime? What is this team if Fleta leaves? Because his contract's up and he doesn't want to concede playtime to Fitz anymore.
Well, half of the time it's the same team, so
right. But you get my point. Like we view him as part of the optimal, high end, skill cap for this team.
Yeah.
And if he's not there, man, I mean, it's hard for me to have faith in them now. And I can at least fall back on, well, maybe they just do play Fleta and everything's fine and everything's better.
Right.
But without even that, it would be really hard to get excited about this whole thing.
True. Long story short, I'm picking San Francisco to win here, probably 3-1, if not 4-0.
Yeah, I'll go San Fran 3-1.
Yep. Last already planned match on Friday, we've got the LA Valiant versus Hangzhou Spark. I do think this is the most hotly contested match here. If I had to lean one way or the other, I think I am going to go with the hot Spark here. Give me Hangzhou. I do agree with you that the solidification of Gushui at the main tank role has really allowed them to actually step forward and really kind of assume that position that a lot of people gave them in the preseason. Of course, they were the most unknown team that no one knew about, except literally everyone everyone was talking about them being a top 3, top 5 team coming into the season, and they really, I guess, were put in their place a bit, but they've really kind of ascended back up. And LA Valiant went from, obviously they had signed Mr. 0-7 as well, and then are the only team in the regular season to defeat the Vancouver Titans. So really, what can you expect from this match?
I don't know. It's really tough to call. The Valiant have shown the ability to beat Vancouver, which makes you think they can obviously beat anybody. Hangzhou might be the Spark, but the Valiant are a Spark, right? Like they kind of flared up this stage.
Yeah.
And we don't really know exactly what they are. And I tend to think, similar to Houston, right? Who kind of peaked a week before.
Right.
You saw them kind of level off a little bit. People got used to what to expect, and the team's still much better for the new strategy and all these things. They're performing better. They're a much scarier opponent, all those things. But I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit in time. And I'm going to give Hangzhou the win here. They are just consistent, steady as she goes. If they want to play goats, they can do that just fine. If they want to go into the DPS meta, they can do that just fine. And there's not really any holes in the Hangzhou Spark game for me at the moment. And the Valiant, I say it, I feel like I say it every single week, but you got to prove it to me over long term, you know, and
Right.
it keeps paying off for me having these opinions. You know, I don't fully trust that Houston's awful because they had one bad stage. I don't trust that, you know, I didn't trust the Valiant were awful just because they had, you know, in 7 stage. And it's just kind of one of those things. In Hangzhou's more consistent. Looking at what the Valiant are doing, it's impressive. It's great to see. But I think, unfortunately, as much as we hyped it up and said it was possible, I think the both sides of the Houston versus Valiant matchup here for that we build as possible for the finals is probably going to lose in the first week because, man, I mean, I think New York versus Shanghai is probably going to be the most, and it's funny because that's 1 versus 8 in the standings, but when everybody's 5 and 2 or better, it's just everybody's really good, right? So yeah, I don't know, this one feels like Hangzhou, it's theirs to win. But the Valiant could keep, I mean, they keep the momentum going, right? The Flames don't have to die out just because I'm starting to think they might. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's tough too because out of sight, out of mind. We didn't see most of these teams play this week. Like only New York and Shanghai among this group, I believe, played this past weekend. So
I think you're right.
They could be coming in hot because of their extra time off. They could be slumping because
cold because of the time off.
Yeah, you know, you really just don't know. It almost makes it even more wide open than it would normally have been with just these teams going in. So I know I'm pretty excited about it. And that one I think is going to be a great way. Either way, no matter who wins that one, I do think it's going to be really close. It's going to be back and forth. I think the map element too, choosing maps is going to make would Vancouver versus Houston be compelling if we knew Houston was going to have to play on Hollywood and all these things? No, it wouldn't be, because you would just have these maps where you're like, okay, Houston's losing. But now if we get to hybrid and Houston lost the last map, they just get to pick not Hollywood and like go that way. So I think it could be really interesting. I think we need to, if you're close in the pick'em leads and you know you're trying to win prizes in pick'ems, really pay attention to what the map pools are. And if there's teams here that just dominate across all of them or are very consistent across all of them, I think that should really derive things. And I don't know map percentage numbers for the Valiant and Hangzhou this stage, but I have to think they're both pretty good. So yeah, this one's going to be real close, but I think Hangzhou is in the driver's seat, I should say.
Yeah. So if we'll just use yours for example. If we take your predictions as true, Vancouver wins. They're the 2 seed. You're picking Shanghai to win.
So it would be Vancouver versus Shanghai.
Vancouver versus Shanghai. Who wins that match?
I'm gonna go Vancouver.
Okay. So we would have Vancouver on one side, and then
Shock versus Spark.
Shock versus Spark. Yep. Who do you have in Shock versus Spark?
Spark.
Okay.
I think it's another one that would be really close, and I think very much so decided on which San Francisco shows up. But with having that inconsistency element to their game, and not really seeing that from Hangzhou at all, I think we've got to give them the inside track here. Yeah, they're even the higher seed and everything. Yeah. So,
all right. So that means in your predictions, we have a stage 3 finals of Vancouver Titans versus Hangzhou Spark. Are the Hangzhou Spark able to take down the Titans for the championship for stage 3?
No. I would say Vancouver probably wins this stage if it plays out that way. It's funny too because it's not going to play. I want to preface my predictions by saying it's not going to play out this way. This is me like picking favorites, but like in what week of this stage did all the favorites win? You know what I mean? And it's not going to go down that way.
Well, I mean, Shanghai is not the favorite against New York, and this bracket is wildly different if New York wins against Shanghai.
It is. It is very different, and it's kind of the one upset I'm penciling in. But it feels like the safest of the upsets because of New York's track record. And
Sure.
I don't even mean to pile on and
Hey,
and
hey,
make it particularly
7-0 season, man. I'll take the
That's-
number 1 seed in the stage playoffs. I don't care. I'll take that every time.
I'm sitting here perfectly content with Houston losing the first game of the playoff weekend and then going into scrim the rest of the weekend,
Right.
or like going into and prepping for stage 4.
Right.
Like I'm on record with that's what I want from my team, right? Like going into the Houston's last game, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I need them to win, but man, it would be great if they could win and not make playoffs at the same time, because I'm not sure that me as a fan that wants that, like, that's already bought tickets for Philly, that would love them to be this year's Philly and be the
Right.
Cinderella team that sneaks in the bottom seed and makes it all the way. Like, I want to keep that dream alive. And the selfish part of me that wants that and doesn't care so much about how much money each of the players takes home at the end of the stage, I don't care. I just just get fast forward through the Houston matchup. I don't want to be excited. I don't want to be upset. I've had my roller coaster ride with them plenty throughout the games that count. I don't need
if
it
they
in
get
the
a win.
playoffs.
If they get a win, you're like priced into caring about the rest.
Oh,
of the
I mean,
playoffs.
I'll be rooting for them. Don't get me like in the moment, but
Yeah.
like rational me before the moment is
Right.
like, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Like
Right.
it's literally an exhibition game.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens to the Bills in the preseason, so I'm not
True.
going to care what happens in exhibition games in Overwatch League.
True. Well, I think regardless, this does stand to be a really great stage playoffs. Of course, we still do have the possibility of San Francisco versus Vancouver in the finals again, but I do think it is much less likely. So, one way or the other, I think this is going to be a great week to be watching. Of course, and if your favorite team's not in and you don't care about the stage playoffs, enjoy the week off and have fun with the little bit of with the breath of fresh air to take during the stage playoffs. What I would suggest watching, because I think these are going to be the best ones. But that is going to bring us to the end of the show. Death, anything we need to talk about before we head out here?
No, even though you just kind of gave people who aren't a fan of these 8 teams license not to watch.
Go for it. I don't care.
I want to argue that they should
I'm
definitely.
not tied to the viewership of Overwatch League.
I'm somebody that's not super invested in these, and even I've got to say, the 2 we've had this season have been pretty hype, and they've been
True.
a lot of fun. And it was a much less interesting and much less of a inviting meta to watch.
Mhm.
So I think if we can get the same level of excitement, and I think it's easy to see that coming. The teams that don't quote belong here based off of season long records, and Houston and the Valiant are theoretically going to be trying as much harder than a lot of the top end teams that have been here every single time. You got Shanghai still trying to prove itself. There's a lot to have fun with, even if they don't matter. So I might downplay the importance of them, but I'm not downplaying the fun of them. They've been a blast all season, so you guys should definitely.
The thing I will leave us with, and I won't out this person because I don't know if they want this to be associated. I don't know if they want this to be public information. So I was talking with what I'll describe them as an Overwatch content creator who said that they have not been paying as close of attention to Overwatch League this stage specifically, because in their mind, and I think in a lot of our minds as well, the stage was kind of billed as like, okay, they didn't change the meta. This is probably going to be like a repeat of the last stage. Probably going to be a little bit, not necessarily boring, but like we're not going to see too much shakeups. It's going to be cut and dry. We already played this stage, et cetera, et cetera. And in talking with them, it's like, yeah, I regret having made that decision at the beginning, because the stage has been great. There's been so much there's been so many shakeups, so many upsets. The matches have been great. The meta has actually shifted organically. Like, it's just been great. And I think the stage playoffs are going to be no exception there. So,
yeah, I was the same opinion going into the stage. Where I'm just like, I'm like, what? This is crazy. Why didn't we do roll lock and all these things?
Yeah.
And
now we're going to be like, why did we do roll lock?
Looking back on it, I'm like, what were we talking about in season 1 or stage 1? It was, holy cow, the parity this stage is insane. And what were we talking about in stage 2? I can't believe it. The parity didn't go anywhere. Like, we're still playing goats. That's crazy. But also the results are still all over the place. Yeah. And stage 3, it's like, of course, it's been building as we've gone. We've been surprised by it every time. Yeah. So yeah, we've just got to I'm getting to the point of just blind faith where I'm just like, I'm all in. I'm going to stop forming. I mean, I can't because I have a podcast where I need to form opinions about things, but like, I'm going to stop. My fan brain is going to stop formulating opinions about what I think the meta should be and all these things. And I'm along for the ride now. It's official.
Yep. We are all along for the ride. Won't you join us as we watch the stage playoffs this weekend? But guys, thank you everyone for joining us today on the show. Of course, we record the show live on twitch.tv/High Noon Podcast every Monday at just around 7 p.m. Eastern. Had a lot of new people in the chat today. We had Wanted Winston, Fudgy Fuzz caught their first show and subscribed with Twitch Prime. We had Alex, Omnipack, Monkey Prince. I'm sorry, I don't usually go through the chat, but it was a nice vibrant chat, and I think we saw some new faces in the chat as well. So thank you everyone for listening. You can check us out there. You can also check us out on all the platforms, pretty much every social platform you can think of. We are High Noon Podcast. Go on Spotify, type in High Noon Productions. You'll not only get this podcast, but all of the other podcasts we produce as well. Around the Payload, Foul Play, Blackwatch Report. All of them are also on Spotify as well. Make sure you subscribe there. And if you would like to support us financially, you can always you can subscribe on Twitch with Twitch Prime for free. But you can also go to patreon.com/High Noon Podcast and become a patron there as well. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for the show. Thank you everyone for listening. For Deathblow, I'm the Blevins, and remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
I think you thinking I was thinking, wow, I said think 58 times. You thinking that I was thinking of XQC when I was actually thinking Fraggy might be the furthest away we've ever been on Brain Length ever.
You're not wrong.